we can see, thank you, we can see that we have information coming in on two inputs, on analog input number 1 and number 2. We saw that first 2 meters over on the side. I just need to make a little change here to make my life better. Okay. And kick drum again, please. All right, we can see that what's coming in on number 2, which is the AKG open microphone, is coming through just one hit on the kick drum, please. Thank you. All right, and I've turned on a feature here called peak hold, so I can see where those lines were instead of having to remember, because I don't even remember what I was going to say, let alone where that peaked at. But that is peaking at about -14, which means it's averaging like 6 dB lower than that, or somewhere around -18, maybe -20. So I don't need to adjust the gain control for that. It's set at 0. It's boosting, not at all, but there's no pad on it. The other one we learned last Tuesday, we need to have a pad on kick drum, please. And I need to put some gain into there because I've already knocked 20 dB off of it. So that means I'm going to turn that pad off, turn the gain control all the way down, kick drum 1 hit, please. All right, and you can already see that it's peaking now higher than -12. Not okay. All right, so I have to, from there, which I'm going to call that -10, I'm going to put a 20 dB pad on that, so now the input's going to be at -30. 1 kick drum, please. I feel like an auctioneer. Okay, so now I'm coming up from -30, and I want this to peak at -12, so I have to add, help me with it, it's arithmetic.
Was it -30 to -12?
Yeah, it's 18.
18.
I have to add 18 dB worth of gain to this to make it peak the same place the other one does. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, this whole gain thing, all right, if we're trying to make it average -18 and peak no higher than -12, we just did, that's not even arithmetic. That's, you know, that's like figures. I got enough fingers and toes to do that, I think. Now this is calibrated in tens. 1 hit the kick drum, please. And I'm going to clear my peaks and reinstitute 1 hit on the kick drum, please. There's another 4. Clear my peak. 1 hit on the kick drum. Looky there, Porter. And now they're even. They're both, so we're getting the same amount of energy coming in on both of those microphones. We got that?
Yes.
That making sense? All right, and that is the analog side. All right, that is the microphone pre-amplifier. And there is no analog to digital conversion taking place yet. All right, so now we're going to go to the portion of the program that allows us to do analog to digital conversion, and then we have a gain control. We have a gain control for it, and we have a fader also for the analog to digital converted side, and we are going to set all of those faders at
Unity gain.
okay, so that then means that if I look at the input mixer, which is what, if you look right here, that's what we're going to look at now, and if I set those faders at unity gain, which I just did, we should have the same indication on these as we had back in the analog domain. 1 hit on the kick drum, please. Not quite. And that would be because of poor work on my part. But at least I admit it. All right, and 1 hit on the kick drum, please. Okay, thank you. We've been returned. It's like the magician. He hooks it up and you can still see the girl. What fun is that? Well, it depends on, you know. Okay, so now I think it would behoove us. 1 hit in the kick drum, please. Okay. It would behoove us to record a little bit of kick drum. All right? So now I'm going to go to the record side of the mixer, and I pressed a button here. And I'm going to record enable 1 and 2, and they're now flashing red. And Tom and Stefan will be my testifiers for that there's now 2 flashing red there, and you can see them here not flashing red. 1 hit on the kick drum, please. Okay, and since I now have my tape return, the output of the recorder, set at,
Unity gain.
okay, I can now flip back and forth between all three of those displays and we'll be seeing exactly the same thing. And that is at this point exactly what I want. Okay, because that means I have set up the whole rig from microphone input to output of the rig into the amplifier, all running at unity gain. So what I am going to hear out of these loudspeakers is the truth. Okay? Toad,
Yes.
could you play the kick drum for me? Thank you. Now, could you do me a favor?
Yes.
Could you play the kick drum as hard as you possibly can?
All right.
Thank you. You can rest now.
I'm out of breath.
Well, we need to talk. I think we have some people that can help you. All right. We're gonna go back to here. Now, I want to play these back, and I want to play them back in the room. And I don't know if you noticed, but the output meters on the other side were mirroring the input meters. And the reason that they were doing that is because those are the only inputs we have. When there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, that will not be true. Okay, but while this is still so simple and it's only these two microphones, the outputs will match the inputs. Okay? Don't count on that taking place. But the first thing that I must do before I play this back is I have to go back to the input side and pull down the faders. Then they were at unity gain, remember? So it's easy to put them back because it's easy to go back to unity gain. But otherwise, we'll be able to hear not only the sound that we have recorded playing back, we'll be able to hear the room, the sound of the microphones in the room picking up the sound that we recorded. So we won't have any idea what the sounds that we recorded actually sound like, because we'll be hearing them not just from the loudspeakers, but from the loudspeakers being picked up by the microphones and coming back through the loudspeakers a little bit later. So we always have to be careful to mute the inputs before we go to playback. All right, and then I have a level control here that controls how loud it plays back. It does nothing to what has been recorded. It only controls how much electricity is going to the amplifier. All right, so that's so I can keep my job and get to do this again next year. All right. That's the closed back microphone. Notice it doesn't sound a whole lot like the drum. It sounds like the frequency response of the microphone. All right. I'm sorry, that was a lie. This is, there we go. That's the closed back microphone. And it's the frequency response of the microphone. That was an error on my part. Personal foul number 1. Okay? This is the open back microphone, which is letting the low frequency, the long wave is passing right through the microphone. It is in fact influencing the diaphragm, but it's not what's winning at making the diaphragm move. This is the AKG. You'll notice how it's emphasizing the transient portion of the sound wave. This is the thing, the day when I so severely misspoke and said that every sound has a crack and a boom. This is emphasizing the crack, and that is emphasizing the boom. Now, because the Shure microphone is a exceptionally well designed for picking up, things with that. I got to start over. Exceptionally well designed at picking up things with that particular transient set of characteristics. There is a significant amount of attack in that microphone also, and we could easily sculpt a useful and successful kick drum sound out of that with a little equalization and a little compression. But that's not for today. All right, so here is closed back with just a hint of the attack from the other microphone. And since I know that those two microphones are the same distance from the head, I know that they are.
In phase.
This is going well, okay? And I wanted them in phase because,
Use them together then.
huh?
You can use them together then.
Yeah. And,
You don't want them to cancel each other out.
right, 'cause what a
Coherence.
waste of energy that would be. And if this is the fundamental part of the bottom end of my record, and is also part of the record that, depending on what genre of record I'm making, is going to receive the most significant manipulation. If I start out with them out of phase, is there anything I can do to make it be better? Okay, so enough said, right? Okay, cool. Now I want to go ahead and we're going to listen with the exact same set of fader, the same fader relationship on the output side, but we're going to listen now to Toad playing that same drum as hard as he can. I want you just to listen to the way that the flavor of this has changed, okay? Because we've now gone from well, we'll see. What has happened to the
It's
sound?
vibrating the snare now, but
Okay, but not that. What has happened to the sound of the kick drum?
Which microphone?
It sounds like
That's
a,
both. This is the same set of relationships with the microphones as we had before.
I think it's because he's kicking it so hard. It's not it's not lingering around as much. So the
More.
frequency
Why?
is different.
Why?
Because it's like stronger, shorter hits instead of.
Doesn't have a chance for the wave to complete.
Right, exactly. It doesn't. He's hitting it so hard.
I knew that's what you were
Yeah, I
going
was trying to word it
for.
right.
He's not
All right,
really
it's
starting
hitting it.
So it's not really hitting at a hard velocity.
He's hitting it at a high velocity.
Yeah.
All right, and what's happening is he's making the drum choke itself. Okay, because before it's so hard that a whole bunch of the energy is wasted making parts of the drum vibrate that we're not picking up with the microphone. Hence, we're getting less low frequency, and the harder he hits it, the less low frequency we will get because the drum is not having an opportunity to resonate. So you were right, and you were right, and it was all. That's all. It's all that. So when you end up with a drummer who is beating the bejesus out of a kick drum, I one time did a punk record. For a guy who played the drums so hard, I had to go to the hardware store and get chains, and use chains wrapped around cement blocks for the spurs of his kick drum. And he still, in the course of a 4-minute song, moved that kick drum 3 feet across the studio, knocked the microphone over. You know, it was amazing. He was playing that drum so hard it made almost no sound at all. You know, and then I would go in the studio and I would play heel and toe. I would just barely hit that thing and it would explode. And he did not get it. You know, but the harder you hit it, the worse it works. Now, why is the AKG the open back microphone? Why would people use that?
That'd be better for a more closed room.
Okay.
So that way it has room to bounce
Often,
off.
yes. Frequently also used, the football shaped one now, of course, for someone who hits really, really hard, where you're not going to get the low frequency anyway because they're choking the drum, because its picture of the high frequency stuff of the attack of the drum is has much more information in it than the high frequency portion of the attack of the drum in the Shure microphone, because since it's tuned to be resonant at the low frequency, you know, it's not paying nearly as much attention to the rocky hitting that side of beef, and you know, it's not picking up that sound nearly as much.
So it helps correct it if
Yeah.
it's being
Well,
over.
or in lots of super loud places where you can't use a closed back microphone like that because it doesn't pick anything up. because there's nothing, the drum's not making the sounds and the microphone's not very good at picking up the high frequency